live.
Cool. We're live, bro.
We're live.
Welcome to the first podcast. I'm Gabo. This is my guest, Zentachi. Yep.
Indeed.
How's your day going today?
Day's going okay. You know, I came down to Earth just to fuck around for a little bit. And I've been
From the aliens.
Yeah, you know, like it's real. You know, it's crazy up there. So
my dog is from Mars. If y'all don't know.
Just they talk shit about Mars and Pluto. Don't listen to them. Like, we still go to them. But anyway, I've been having a good day. What about you?
I'm doing good, bro. I'm doing good. You know, I'm here at school. It's the last day of the quarter. So, you know, there's like hella shit going on. It's kind of hectic. People moving out and shit. But had to make time to make this pod. It's a big moment, bro.
Yeah, I hope them deadlines. You got them cut.
Got that out the way.
Oh,
Easy.
Please.
Easy.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Then we're set.
We're
Let you start.
We're good to go.
Tell me.
We're good to go. So, I guess tell us a little bit about what you do, who you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say every time someone asks me this question, or every time I'm asked this question, I try to give a slightly different version of my answer.
Okay.
But for me, as of right now, I feel like I'm an inventor.
Mm.
And why would you use inventor? Okay, yeah, that's
Right.
kind of random.
Right.
But the reason why I say that is because I feel like most of what my day accumulates to now is brainstorming the future. And not necessarily like the future as future technology, but more so brainstorming my life's future, understanding how I can flip myself on its head. It's almost like treating me like, not like a movie, but more like a character, and finding where I can go from here, finding what new character traits can add to who I am and how that can change who I am now. I feel like that's the most worthwhile thing that happens to me, that I feel like I'm a part of, you know, my day. Like, of course, creating is always a great thing, but I think in creating, it's those moments when you get outside of yourself enough to look at yourself and kind of see where you could go from here. It's kind of like looking at your box enough to see where it is, to know where you can go from there, from that, expounding upon something, kind of like what we talked about earlier with it, like a gimmick. You know? Having something that is always going to stay with you, but it's not meant to stay with you as a dragging habit or a nagging character, but more so as a foundation to a type of person or a type of character. Whatever you have, whatever you feel like stays with you, no matter who you are, that's always going to be a foundation to a lot of what you do.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So then let me ask you this. So with creating a gimmick, like you said, and with artists trying to push themselves out of these boxes that you talk about, what do you think are some of the things that hold artists back? Some mindsets that they are maybe entrapped in, that you would say, like, if you were giving advice, like, you know, try this.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like ideology that hold creatives back is the ideology that there needs to be a mindset. And I think that's just because all the time we want to create, or all the time we have these expectations to want to build something bigger than, you know, what you've already done, or maybe you just want something to show for what you have in your head or what you have in your mind, the way you want to express this idea about yourself. And, you know, a lot of the times we can get so held up in the fact that we don't get close to that ideal, kind of like living up to your taste. You know, you may not have the skills to create that taste at this moment, but understanding that moments come and go allows you to be more grateful about the time you have and the time you get to spend. So spend it. Don't just learn and
live.
Really live, and live for yourself in contempt, not in contempt, but in gratitude with yourself. Because I feel like that's going to give you more creative juice and discipline than you're ever going to find trying to find motivation, trying to find inspiration. It's kind of why I used to, every time an artist would ask me to produce for them, I would go and listen to their entire catalog. Okay, I'm going to get inspired. Granted, I kind of did that recently, but I notice now that because I have my own spark internally, that clock ticks, I allow that to tick. and I allow myself to challenge myself to not need a reference for a sound. It's kind of like if every time your professor asked you for an art piece in a certain style, you had 1,000 Pinterest pages up of that art style and then did the drawing.
Okay.
Well, that's cool. That's perfect. You may not get the most interesting perspective on this whatever task he gave you because of the fact that you were trying to find that in things that have already been done. So you already have been looping yourself back into things that have already been done, and then your creative output doesn't feel as interesting as
genuine.
As genuine.
You're saying look internally.
I'm saying look internally
than things that have already been done,
and not just look internally as in I have to find something about myself that interests me. But to become more open and sensitive to the things that actually matter to you. Because that will make you more interesting.
For sure.
Like when you actually can take it into account who you are enough to expound on that, enough to change that, enough to influence that, then you yourself become your own influence. And that creates this internal clock that I feel like, or that this internal conveyor belt of ideas that stems from itself. Agreed. You never, I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. Nah, I'm just thinking now, like, you never, I've always had so many struggles with, your creative battery. And I feel like you have too. I already know you have. So I'm like, the best thing you could do as a creative is to be consistent with yourself. Just to feel some type of stability too, it's like,
for sure,
with all this experimenting, you still want to have some stability to know that you can consistently create without the goal or without the burden of creating something that's quote unquote good or up to standard.
Right.
And I'm a big culprit of that. So you really have to take into account that everything you do and a lot of the stuff you do can be a lot more genuine if you let it be.
Right. I think a lot of artists, like, they get caught up in trying to live up to that standard, like you're talking about. Like, they try to make the piece that's going to define them as an artist every single time they sit down to create. And it's like, nah, like, you don't always have to do that. Like, you can experiment. Like, you have to give yourself time to make the piece. Like, you have to build it, So, thank you for saying that. Also, since coming to this art school, I've been meeting like hella new creatives, and people talk about the things that they do to jog their creativity, and get themselves up to where they want to be. And my art teacher, my drawing teacher that I had, he talked about looking at nature when drawing. He said nature will like trump your internal creativity every time, because the natural beauty of the world is something that is inspiring and the ultimate imagination in itself, so you can really look outside. And he made me be more perceptive of the things that are going on outwardly. Like, be more attentive to your surroundings. I thought that was interesting.
I mean, shit, nature, but I mean, a lot of the stuff we do stems back to I feel like we have this interesting perspective of nature, because you see we're almost detached from it. Not quite though, because it's still around us. We still are part of our own kind of ecosystem. But like, damn, I wonder what type of inspiration could you get from a life filled with solid, from a life filled with peace and perspective. I feel like that would allow you to draw conclusions in different places a lot sooner, or more so a lot more consistently, because you're allowed to kind of release yourself from this life of distraction. I feel like it's almost like the city life versus kind of living out in the country. Not to say that there's a better or worse one.
What do you mean distraction? Like, what do you mean by that?
Well, I think here in the heart of this city, in Atlanta at least, that's a great place to start. This is the land of distraction. There's so much shit here that I feel like dilutes the potential of itself. Like, for instance, events here. Like, I think Atlanta could be the hub for so much creative progression and so many different ideas being explored due to the fact that there's so much legacy here and there's so much output here currently. Like, there's, even if you go back 20 years, you had Outkast. Now you have a bunch of rising artists that are probably doing random shit in their bedroom too.
Right.
The only thing I feel like is distracting that movement from becoming more prominent and more mainstream, though, outside of what you already see people blowing up, is simply the fact that I feel like everyone is distracted with their own shit. Maybe you're school. Okay.
So there's not enough collaboration, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm more so not saying collaboration as in, hey, we're making music together, but a bigger sense of collaboration. Like, hey, you know what? We made music together. Hey, let's do a concert together. Hey, let's do an event together. Hey, let's go put on this show for these people here so we can get a bigger look and then boost ourselves up. I don't see a lot of groups coming out. And I also think that's kind of a symptom of today's era too. Like the last group I saw come out that was big pop or just big in general that really showed what creative collaboration could do for your own artistic merits. Yeah. It's really shit. It really has to be Brockhampton. And I say that because a lot of people revere their work for the fact that they could keep such a big group together for so long and have such interesting work with all of them having their own little highlights.
You think that's because of like the competitive nature of people, and maybe like it takes a second, or not even a second, but it's hard to like maybe for somebody to be a leader or to have multiple people in the group be leaders and like not let egos get in place and
I feel you
keep people committed, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's hard to match work ethics. I feel it's like rare, you know, like you really have to like search for those people. You know what I'm saying?
But even with work ethic, that's always a tongue twister. But even with that, thinking, I feel like it's also purpose. If whenever you link up with creative, the first thing y'all kind of not say gel with, or the first thing you guys are finding out is how you are in each other's space, right? Creatively even, you know, because when you're working with somebody first time, you're just kind of seeing how they are as a creative, what their style is. Are they fast work? Are they slow? Do they take a long time, short time? What do they do? How are they, you know? And I think for me, because there's different styles of people who allow different levels of input, I think that creates a balance where you kind of have you really have to know yourself to know how you would work with somebody, and then on top of that, knowing yourself enough to know whether you would want to work with somebody. Because some people don't actually push your vision further, and that's okay. Like it's okay to have people who may not always add to what you're doing, but that contrast also needs to be there. Like let's say maybe I'm doing music and you're doing music, so we're both artists, but maybe you do prog rock and I do indie country. The overlap doesn't really seem that strong, but maybe in the midst of us trying to find our chemistry, we find out that, well, actually I really benefit from this part of your style of music and you really benefit from this part of mine. I feel like that's where people in groups like Brockhampton got their stride, is finding how we contrast and then displaying that to the world in a way that feels interesting and cohesive. And that's what made the story of Brockhampton. Right. Is a lot of that contrast.
Okay. So it just so like with that, you know, how do you not then force it? You know, because how like you're trying to like maybe you maybe you like this person. Yeah. You know, and like, you know, you really want to work with them, but it's hard to find that commonality or common ground that can push your artistry forward. Like how do you know when to be like, all right, like I think we need to move past this, you know, like, or maybe try something else.
Well, that's the thing. So sometimes you have to just be outside of the box with what you're doing with somebody. Like for instance, like I don't want to put us on blast, but I know we definitely was trying to go crazy in the studio for a minute. But even in that, even though we may not have found something that we thought was the craziest thing, it was still something that we needed to do to figure out how we do work together. And at least for me, if maybe let's say we don't really have that gel here musically. Yeah. But maybe that's not where we connect. Maybe we connect in this lane, in this era. With art, with visual media, with this or with that, or with podcasts. You never know. And I think that's where being open enough to try things comes in. Because I could have been like, well, damn, you know what? He's a cool dude, but like his art sucks. I could have been an asshole.
Fuck,
and just,
man, this music,
you
can't
this
rap. Like, what do you can't sing? Like,
dude, man, like what the fuck? You're supposed to be my next Drake.
Right.
Yeah, putting all that pressure on somebody is fucked up. So
Yeah.
I really wanted to just, okay, how can I collaborate with you? How can I find a way to add myself into what you're doing and you add yourself into what I'm doing in a way that actually feels cohesive, actually feels like, wow, they found something with this.
Yeah.
And I think that's where having conversations like this give us more insight. Sometimes you never know until you talk to somebody who they really are, really.
Right.
Like, yeah, even creatively, I've seen people who I didn't really understand them creatively until they started talking to me, until we actually had conversations. Because some people have a different way of processing it, and you have to be okay with that. And because that perspective is what creates the subjectivity of what we call art. You gotta. That's like the number one thing I feel like we all gotta respect.
Is each other's creativity.
Yeah.
Each other's way of like flowing.
No matter how hard,
Yeah.
bro, that shit's some bullshit. you gotta respect it, and I think that's the common ground that I would love to see more with artists is respecting people's work, and myself included, because I feel like I've had the biggest ego.
Yeah.
And that's made me feel so lonely towards people creatively. Like, I'm telling you.
You
like,
think that's because like you pick up on things like quickly?
I think that's just because I'm very particular. And yeah, I'm saying I'm picky in a sophisticated way, but I'm also saying that because I feel like for me, every time I hear music, I hear different elements of the music in a different way. Like sometimes I would always swear I hear colors because I feel like every emotion I would feel in the midst of a record would give me a tone. It would give me a color. It would give me a visual. It would give me a media. And that imagery in my head, I feel like would always influence me in my creation. So if I didn't get that, or if that just didn't feel like it was conveyed enough on whatever I'm listening to, I kind of feel a type of way. I kind of feel like, damn, I wish this was a little deeper, or not deeper as in lyrics, but just deeper as in the actual production, the sound design, how
as a whole.
Yeah, as a whole, how deep did you go with this, you know? And
so you think like a lot of the music being put out now, like it's like fast food type music?
Oh, fast food.
You know?
Wasn't it fucking, what's his name? Not what's his name, because he's a fucking goat, but it was Yusuf. He had said how Drake's music was some fucking shopping music or some shit. And I was like, dude, I feel like nowadays, and I tell people this all the time.
Yeah.
And you can't take away from anybody's art, so I can't just talk shit about all these artists, objectively. It gotta be from my opinion.
Right.
But in my opinion, I kind of feel like today's music is more so working to serve its purpose. It's not necessarily pushing forward the genre that it's in, or pushing forward whatever it's trying to be. It's being that. I think that's what more artists are doing now. It's kind of like being that handyman in your toolkit, because there's so much out there right now. As you see, the landscape has expanded like a dam. It's so much music that as a big artist, can you really feel comfortable experimenting if you already know that your audience expects a certain type of artist from you?
Right.
And not only that, there's more and more artists doing weirder and weirder stuff each day that may already take up a bit of your lane.
Yeah.
So, okay, what would I do? Go strongly into what I know I can do best. Nobody can make hits like me. Nobody can do this like me.
Yeah.
So that's what I would go into. So I can understand why music sounds the way it does, because the purpose of it is a bit different too. Like, I don't know when the next time we'll ever have an artist that will be bold enough to put out some shit like Balloons, House of Balloons, or to put out some shit like Graduation in the time frame that it was put out, not in the day in today where everything is okay, everything is great, but in the time frame where if you put this out, this could mean that you would never have a career. Not to say that it's some.
Why do you say that though?
I just say that just because sometimes when people don't catch a wave as a younger artist, like let's say you're trying to get your stardom now, right?
Right.
Let's say you purely just do what your sound is only.
Right.
I think there's two pipelines you can go. Now, the first pipeline, which is what everybody wants, this is what every artist wants, is when you blow up and gain that core audience that you personally have because they fuck with your sound. And because it's interesting enough for them to have that. But I feel like the other pipeline is kind of like Yeah, you go and be a, you're trying to put out, you're trying to find different things to do, and you're putting out music and shit like that. And granted, there's no time limit or there's no constraint. You can do whatever you want.
Right.
But let's say you were viral on TikTok for this one little song, but then you didn't do anything with it. Not to say that you can't capitalize on yourself, but you may not have as strong of a career if you don't understand the balance of being a mainstream act and then also still being original.
Yeah.
like having that power to really stay in the public eye, and but also be me.
Yeah.
Like to be to myself, but in a way that still intrigues people enough to want to come in and see what's he doing.
Right. It's rare.
Yeah, it really is.
It's rare.
If anything, what artist would you say is the last artist you feel like you've seen that took people's eyes?
Yeah, the first artist that comes to mind is honestly Tyler, the Creator.
For real? Okay.
He's like so big, like he's a huge entity at this point, but he's like been able to maintain like his originality and just like the way he articulates himself, and even probably someone like Denzel Curry, is another artist I really love as well.
He's underrated.
Yeah, he's so underrated. Like those artists have been able to maintain themselves. And like you said, Denzel's like, he's a bit smaller than Tyler, but he has the niche audience, like myself, who will always like be looking to see what he's doing next,
No, go ahead. I ain't want to cut you off.
Nah, you're good, bro.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about what you said though about being big, like being a massive artist, but then still staying original, like being able to be yourself. Like
a good example.
What do you think? What do you think it takes to grow as an artist like that? Like, I feel like these things start from childhood. Like it's about how you're raised. It's about having the freedom to express yourself. A lot of parents don't really think that art is a way that you can make money or a way that you can live, and there's a lot of external factors like your parents or your aunts or whoever who are saying like you can't be an artist, like that's not a way of life, like you're not going to make money, you're going to struggle. And a lot of these come up stories, you mentioned House of Balloons, The Weeknd, like that's somebody who was literally homeless, like he talks about being homeless, and like a lot of like Basquiat homeless, So what do you think about that?
My thing is, a lot of the times adversity can breed a sense of individuality that you may not find with everybody. But even then, you don't have to force yourself into a life of misery to find comfort in your creativity from that.
Right.
You don't have to feel like, damn, I was a suburban kid growing up, so now I can't be fucking deep like The Weeknd. I think a lot of the times, if anything, you can go on a journey, or you always technically on a journey. It's just about how conscious you are of it. But even that consciousness, I think, is what creates the evolution from an artist to an artist. It stems from that perspective, and it's a good example you actually brought up with Tyler, because he's had one of the most.
It looked great.
Okay. I'm already knowing you set it up right, because I can tell just off the positioning.
Perfect. All right. And we're back.
And we're back. Part two.
The boy Zen. Gio. I meant to introduce myself as Gio. That's my artist name.
Indeed.
I go by Gio.
Bro, this nigga's he's a demon. He's a demon in disguise, man. But hey, let's get back to it. Where were we?
So we were talking about Tyler, the Creator, his originality.
Yeah, evoluting as an artist. How about that?
Sure.
But evolution as an artist. And I think you had brought up Tyler, and you were like, how would you evolve as an artist, right?
Right.
And no, you were saying mainstream too, specifically.
Yeah,
like
keeping your originality.
Yeah, keeping
as a mainstream artist, because now you got corporations involved. Like, it must be overwhelming as fuck to be in the public eye, like no privacy.
I think that's the thing about stardom and about fame that I don't like, is that I feel like you're not allowed to live that life that got you where you are. Like, for instance, if my blow up song is me talking about how I fucking hit a lick
Yeah.
And I robbed my whole ops town, and I wanted to blow New Jersey up, and then niggas start looking at everything I'm doing. What do you expect me to be doing? So it's like, okay, with a lot of artists,
is a school threat.
Yeah,
like,
goddamn, what the fuck? So a lot of artists, you got to really give them their space to actually create something and go live life. And that's why I think people who are very respected, who get that luxury, like people like SZA or people like Kendrick. You don't see a lot of stuff coming out about their personal life,
right,
outside of what they tell you,
right,
because they're allowed to live it, you know. And then you're so intrigued into what they do in their day because all of their songs have such interesting topics,
right.
So then you're like, damn, well, what do they got going on? And that privacy, that intrigue, that mysteriousness always adds to the ability to evolve, because now people are wanting and looking for where you're going to go.
Right.
So now as a mainstream artist, you're also allowed to venture out. That's why I feel like somebody like Billie Eilish was allowed to do, not even allowed to, but she definitely, I feel like had a support that I love to see from her fan base supporting her new album, Hit Me Hard and Soft. And that's just because when I was listening to that, I could tell that this wasn't a different artist, but I could tell that this was a more polished version of what I heard.
More confident in like herself.
Yeah, and even in that, like, man, I feel like that's also something too that it really challenges you as a creative. Okay. It really challenges you as a creative is battling that self-hate to do what you've always wanted to do, even if you don't see yourself as the one to do it.
Yeah. So
like, you know, you may have an idea. Damn, I really want to write a pop ballad.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm not a pop nigga.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a Tyler the Creator type nigga. So I sound like this all the time. So you may not feel like you can do that.
Yeah.
But I think that's where the beauty of niggas like Tyler the Creator come from, is having the confidence enough to do it anyway and show that you're not only going to do it, but do it with finesse. Do it with your character. How would you do it? Not just making this type of music, but making this type of music for me, with that authentic attitude. And I think that's what people love about even people like Tyler the Creator, is that authentic attitude.
Absolutely.
I really don't give a fuck what you think. I love my music. If you like it, that's cool too. Don't give a fuck. That kind of attitude.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be outward, but just having that internal trust in yourself to know that, nigga, I like what I like and I like my music.
Absolutely. Free thinker. A real free thinker. Like even with like Loiter Squad and like The Internet.
Hell yeah.
You know, Wolfgang, right? That's what it's called.
I think, did he have another group called Wolfgang? Because I know he was Odd Future.
Odd Future.
Yeah,
that's
Odd Future.
Odd Future.
Because
yeah, so he, like, that whole group, like when they were recording themselves, like they came out with skits and all that. And, like, he's just one of the homies, you know. Like he's like for like a regular person, you know. Like that's what people love, is like seeing someone who is in that norm, like in the normal everyday life, but then still can translate that into like massive records, you know. Because as a regular person, we want artists to tell stories that connects to us and what we're doing, you know, like relates to the everyday struggle, and not just someone who's out in the streets like killing their ops like you're talking about, you know. Yeah.
But I mean, one thing that I've noticed is that a lot of people's heralded legends, you know, like artists that they feel are just a step grade above a lot of others, is mainly, I feel like, those artists, like you say, which is perfect that you went into that.
Yeah.
Those artists are vulnerable enough to use themselves as a vessel to tell that type of story. Like whether it be from Frank Ocean and how people love his albums due to the fact that they're so vulnerable and so open.
Right.
And using that concept of vulnerability to weave the album together. I like that. Or, look, I'm trying not to cut you off.
I was just gonna say, like,
what's up?
Because all these artists, like you're saying, Frank Ocean, Kendrick, like they have that mystique, but then people are still tuning in, you know. But what would you say to someone who's like, oh, but you have to market yourself, you know, like you have to put yourself out there, and showing more of your day-to-day life, like having that interpersonal relationship with your audience would allow you to grow more, you know. But so maybe you start off closer and then you start to hide your personal life, but maybe that's what blew you up in the first place,
Yeah,
you
but
think?
that's kind of like the pipeline of a lot of creatives. Like
Yeah.
you may start off with a more personal brand because it is personal, and all you're doing is just really putting out music because you really want someone to hear this. I want someone to listen to this song, or I just want to put this out because I want to do something. And then if people like that, they like that energy from you. They like how sincere this is. When that gets bigger, it's a lot harder to sell that. Which is why a lot of people, I won't say they're harsh on a lot of different types of artists, on certain types of artists, but when it comes to an image, that's why you have to be very, particular about what type of image you portray, because a lot of people will hold you to that standard. That's why you have a lot of artists who went through a lot of downs and ruts because their image is so high that anything they do to deter or diminish that image, that's going to be a deal breaker, And I think that's also where it comes to building an image that's interesting enough to show the you that you want to be, while also not being too far from the you that you are. Not being too much of a character that you have to play, but not being too much of a personal anecdote of just your life, where it feels so personal, where it's a blog down there. It's not even about the art anymore. You got to be mysterious in that story enough to but to show, not tell. And in this case, let's say your music let's say your art is music.
Right.
You can tell, but you're also still showing, because at the end of the day, you're not saying verbatim, "Hey guys, I have a shitty life and I make music to cope and stuff." You're saying it via your songs, but maybe showing your brand image as something else or something like this. And a good example of using brand images, though, even outside of that mantra of like maybe a smaller audience, but having a smaller audience, but you really don't even need to be that personal. Ian and Forbes are both two creators that blew up super heavily this year, or not this year, but the last year and a half, I'd say. And both of them have interesting brands, interesting images, and they're not even really that personal. But I think they got personal with their audience due to the fact that they were niche. So it's like, oh, I know about this artist and not everybody else knows about this artist. That's my secret. That's my little, that's where all the little gatekeep shit come from. That's my little shit, my little secret or whatever.
Like, oh, this artist right
this artist? Oh yeah, you're tapped in, bro. Like, and a lot of people hold that
put you on real fast.
Put you on, bro.
Yeah, this that shit right here.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of people they stay tapped in for that luxury, for that feeling of nobody else knows about this shit. But once you blow it to not a certain aesthetic, but a certain size, it gets to a point where it's like, damn, fuck, you can't even really have that same mystique anymore because so many people know about it. Like Yeet, man, I remember when Yeet first came out and motherfuckers was like, bro, you know about Yeet, bro, you know about Tonka, Big Tonka, bro, you know about Turk,
Big Tonka. Like,
and niggas were so.
Make sure you got the mic close to you.
Okay,
so we can hear you.
Can
you gotta hear this knowledge.
Hello.
Look,
I'm sorry. Cut this out.
Nah. No, we keeping it in. But bro, I used to be a huge Yeet hater, bro.
What?
Yes, like I was like, this is straight noise. Like it's garbage. Like, but this man has really evolved, and just like the way he really puts you in a different dimension. Personally, like when you listen to his music, I'm like, whoa, like this shit is like ethereal, bro. Like, I really feel like I'm in 2093 when he's rapping, bro. It's like Cardi too. Yeah. Drop music, Cardi. Please just drop the album. Don't wait for Kanye. Waiting for Vultures 2 and shit.
I don't know. That nigga probably shit. You never know. They be locked in their basement for a minute. But man, with different artists, like for instance, like Yeet, I think the fact that you did something so ambitious should be commended for first. But I can't wait to get back to a landscape where we can actually be excited for when people experiment. Now, okay, that sounds kind of like you talking shit. Why you talking shit? Only reason I say that is just because I feel like today when it comes to even experimentation, people have lost their attention spans and have lost their will.
TikTok.
Yeah. But I think it's beyond even TikTok, because TikTok is simply just the provider of the content. It's going to be somewhere regardless. but TikTok is definitely the number one platform that people build their strategy around for marketing themselves as an artist, as creative, for sure. And that definitely creates a lot of what we hear now with different songs are being manufactured for TikTok. And not to say that that's a crazy thing. Oh, we didn't know this, but it's more so down to the level of, it's kind of like when you're auditing, you know, your YouTube scripts and seeing which ones really matter, which ones are really good. That filter is becoming a lot more thin due to the fact that a lot more music is blowing up and a lot less of it is actually being paid attention to. So when you think about what you actually should be making to blow, to move your brand up, almost no matter what you're doing, you almost have to tap into the more mainstream consensus of what people want to hear, and then build off of that. Not to say you have to go make a pop song, but maybe if you're a rock nigga, make a pop rock song. If you're in R&B, make a pop R&B song. Not to say that pop is what you need to be looking for, but in any genre now, there's always going to be that mainstream version of that genre that people are looking for.
So you're saying like you need to be versatile, basically.
Yeah, you got to. You got to. Yeah. Nowadays, the crazy thing is, rap is the biggest thing selling. Not the biggest thing selling, but rap I feel like is
I'd say like reggaeton, like Spanish music.
That may be a debate we have to come back to, because I want to have some facts with me with that one. But I would say me personally,
put some charts up.
Yeah, oh God. But me personally, I feel like I don't think rap is the biggest blowing up. I think rap is the biggest vessel being used, because I noticed so many different artists from different places blowing up off of rapping because of them themselves being the novelty. Like there was this artist named RM that I was listening to. That's technically a K-pop artist.
Okay.
But guess what the fuck I heard?
He's
the
rapping.
moment I turned on the track.
Drill beat.
Nigga, I hear some shit like I hit the club, they shaking ass. I say, what's up? I'm like, nigga, what? Nah, that wasn't that for verbatim. Yeah. But you know, don't quote me on that. But still, it's like, wow,
K-pop, like K-pop artists.
Yeah, but not just. This ain't to talk about K-pop, because oh my God. But even then, I feel
fans go hard too, bro. Like
yeah, K-pop is one of them things where I stay out of it, because holy fuck, you say one wrong name and your ass, you're done. They will find some shit on your ass.
You're cooked.
You're so done, bro. But but I feel like even like that novelty of an artist now has been used and abused in a way where I think now it's almost like we're trying to find alternate universes to live in, because we have different artists that don't look or sound or even resemble what they're making musically, but we like that. We like the contrast. I think as it goes with the industry as entertainment, I think what's entertaining right now and what people like right now is novelty. It's this weird artist that can do this weird stuff, or just a little, and that novelty I feel like is what people are now trying to commodify. How can we make more novel acts? K-pop. How can we make more interesting people? Okay, let's get them to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's get these types of songs for da-da-da-da. And I hear it now too, because I can hear the influence of where people get a lot of like what they're trying to do. With K-pop, at least, I'll hear like 3 K-pop songs and see that K-pop's kind of in a early 2000s revival era. But over here, I'll notice if you had that same song, it may not hit the same over here with an American artist, because it's an American artist.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of the times I noticed that your audience now plays a way, way bigger role into how you have to market and brand yourself. And that branding can usually stick onto you a lot longer and make a lot of what you sound like.
Definitely.
Like if you don't stick to your brand, you don't, it's okay to venture out. But it is going to confuse people if they came into you wanting that dark, I want dark, destroy, lonely. Right. You come out, goddamn, sounding like fucking, I don't know, you sound like McGee. Yeah, Caliuchis. Like, what the fuck? Right. You sound like Don Oliver. That's not bad.
I think that goes back to the gimmick thing that you were talking about. Like, you made me think of an artist, Tizo Touchdown, who has nails in his hair. Literally. Like, that's just a part of his, like, style and what makes people attracted to him. Like, oh, this guy looks interesting. Like, what does he do? And personally, I liked his older music.
But
you know,
Yeah.
I still like the album that he came out with, you know, the new one. But yeah, just like image definitely plays a part in that brand building, you know.
Yeah, but to be honest, I think the even bigger role that we all have to be cognizant of when it comes to our own brand is our self-brand, our own self-worth, our own personal feelings towards how we look at ourselves. Because sometimes that can also be the biggest factor of why you haven't done something with a brand. Maybe you know that you really want to be an alt artist, you want to be an alt pop artist or an indie artist or whatever.
Yeah.
But you don't actually put that forethought into building an aesthetic off of that or building a brand that would be interesting because of the fact that maybe you're trying to appear like who you think you are. You look like a little dark, so you're okay. That's who I'm going to portray myself as.
Yeah.
And I think that can create a lot of stagnation when you're trying to move forward with your art.
Agreed.
So sometimes you got to be okay with just being the martyr, being the vessel in which you're wearing yourself and expressing yourself, no matter who's watching, who cares, who doesn't, or you know what people's opinions are. Like even now, me with this face chain on, probably somebody who said, "What the fuck is that?" But it's okay, you know.
Right.
We all have our opinions, and
Right.
I can't help but show gratitude to everybody, no matter what.
Cool. Personally, I think that shit looks hard, you know.
But that's you. Like you're a cool nigga, so
Yeah.
like of course, like come on, bro. Like you got your own style, shit.
Bro, but honestly, that also makes me think of like, because I love rapping, right? Like,
Okay.
I started making music because me and some of my friends, like, this was during COVID times as well.
Yeah.
So we needed something to do,
Okay.
you know. So we were all making music, and they already rap. And at first I was like, I can't even make music. I don't even know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
they were like,
like-
bro, just shut up, just try it, you know. So
fuck that.
you know, I fell in love with it, really, like writing verses, and then I started writing all the time. You know, I think rap in particular is very connected to like the Black struggle, you know.
I feel that.
And I think, like personally, I also sing, so I think that singing, making softer music could be a better avenue for me personally. Like, I'll still rap, like I'll still have the confidence to rap, but even just with this like Drake and Kendrick beef, like Kendrick really exposed Drake for not being the person who he says he is in his music, you know. And that just made me think like, damn, like I really want to be genuine in the art that I create, you know. Like I don't want to put on some facade that later down the line people are like, bro, like you were capping this whole time, like this shit is not even you, like what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know. So just that authenticity, definitely very important.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I mean, but even in that, being authentic enough to still do it anyway.
Right.
Like I know we had a conversation about stuff, and for me, that's also kind of why I try not to be so judgmental, because at the end of the day, I'm only a man, you know, and that's like we all have ears, we all have eyes, but we all operate differently. So you never know who will stumble across what you've done and love it.
Yeah.
And you don't know where that's gonna come from. You could have a fan base waiting on you just 5 years from now. You never really know. And I think that's why I'm always open, because sometimes you'll just find the most beautiful thing in the most random place, and you'll only be able to appreciate that beauty when you can appreciate where it comes from.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's kind of like even that authentic self, knowing that, hey, yeah, I maybe I'm not Black or maybe I'm not this, but I'm still gonna rap anyway because I want to, and do it my way. It don't gotta be the cap rap that people do or the rap where you're trying to sound tough. Do it my way. Shit, I'm gonna rap about going downtown and I'm in SCAD with my rounds, and you know I'm like it's cool.
I'm in SCAD with my rounds. It's crazy.
It's crazy, but hey, you can do what you want.
Yeah.
You know? I think that's the thing that we all gotta remember as creators and as people with agency. We all have agency, no matter who you are. We all have agency. So no matter what you're doing, realizing that you have a choice, no matter what the outcome is, you know, you have a choice to do something different.
Right.
Now, even if you're in a predicament where maybe you don't got a choice, you still can choose what to think about. You still can choose what you will focus on, you know. And it gets harder and harder the more predicaments you put in. But I think that's also where that willpower comes in, because sometimes you'll get to a point where you may not even feel creatively motivated because of the stuff that goes on in your life. But I think that's where your best pieces can come out of, you know. But you also have to be open enough to allow your creativity to flourish no matter what state you're in.
Okay, so I'm big on I'm big on changing my environment. You know, like I think that can be a great thing, because I think if you stay too long in one place, that could hinder the beauty of your own.
Okay.
Okay. And we're back. All right, so I was saying, personally as a creative, I love to switch around my space, because I think staying in one place for too long will hinder your creative process, and especially in the moments where you're like, fuck, like I can't even think about things correctly because maybe I'm spending too much time in this same room, you know, or like this city is like kind of dreary and like all the colors look the same, or like I've like the palettes have lost life, you know. That's why personally I'm from DC and I came here to Atlanta because I wanted to expand my creative outlook on the world, you know. So definitely for creatives out there, don't be afraid to change your space if you have to, and don't be afraid to take that risk, you know, because it's important for you. You know, this is about you. This is about you being the best artist that you can be. You know, you just have to take that risk, you know. If you have that feeling inside of you, that, you know, that gut feeling, as they call it, you know, that burning sensation, you got to just be able to go, you know, just have no fear.
Yeah, no, for real, as far as, especially when it comes to having no fear. But at the same time, also look outside the box of where you've been going. Some people get really used to even their sense of like expansion. Maybe you're used to going to the studio and then having your house as like your personal home, your personal work. That's something I've done for a while, because sometimes you may be not having no other place to go, may not have any other studios, so you usually go studio, home, there will be work home. But a lot of the times we realize that, you know, the studio may not be the best thing, it may not be the best creative outlet. So we try to find something else. Like we trying to find a muse. Like, what activity can I do to, you know, to bring that out of me? But building a hobby, I think the best thing you could do to switch your environment is to have a habitat in multiple environments, to have a home in multiple places. Like for me in DC, outside of my house and maybe the studio, I would go in and it would be every week. They would have a book club. And the book club people, they would go to this little vintage movie theater, and they had random ass movies that I really didn't give a fuck about. But it was still beautiful. But it was still interesting. And it was interesting because they showed so many movies that have been so looked over, music looked over. And I just went into one and I just sat there and watched for a while. And you know, the funny thing is, I didn't even get inspired off of the movie. I got inspired off of the audience.
And like I think their reactions.
Not just that, but I'm like nosy as fuck. I felt like I gained a story out of the people in the audience. I felt like I could damn near tell why they were there or what they were there for, and I would build stories in my head about them, and that would give me a line of thought. That gave me so many different little ideas about like record ideas and lyrics, and just little lyrics that I would have in my head. And those things too, don't take your ideas for granted. Like with everything, even if you're, you know, because sometimes we're in an environment, and I think sometimes we're used to a certain type of process in our environment. Like maybe at the house, I'm used to being very particular about everything I do. So whenever I'm working on a record at the house, I'm never just experimenting. I'm always tweaking, and that's cool for a while. But maybe that just it kind of closes me up. It makes me not really want to do as many stuff or as much because I'm always tweaking it, or I'm always trying to make it sound the best. So switching up your mental environment too, to make different not just different music or different art, but even the concept of what you're making and why you're making it. Change that. You know, don't bring the baggage that you left at the studio to the park. If you know that there's baggage associated with these environments that you use to create, clear that baggage first. Clean your room, then assess it. You know, I think that's one thing that I really have to remember, especially now.
Yeah, because those things can cause like brain fog,
Man,
you know, and then your mind gets hazy, and it's like you feel entrapped in this space, and then maybe you just gotta stop. You know, maybe you gotta take a pause. No, it's okay to.
And that break turn into 6 hours, and you be like, "Fuck."
Right.
Yeah.
Have you been in those situations?
Been in every one of them.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to
how do you give yourself grace?
Huh?
How do you give yourself grace? Yeah.
Oh, shit, that's something I'm still learning myself. But giving yourself grace is one of those things where it's a delicate balance between giving yourself too much credit and then not giving yourself any sort of slack. So I feel like there's a way to positively push yourself in any sort of, you know, dilemma or endeavor. Like earlier today, one of my hard drives wasn't working. I was hella stressed because I didn't even want to leave the house earlier this morning because I was like, fuck, I can't leave until this hard drive is situated. Now, granted, you know, it is what it is. No matter what happens, I got to be okay with it. But still, that could have ruined my whole day. I could have let that ruin my entire day. But I think giving yourself grace is understanding the things that aren't in your control and showing gratitude to them. Not just being like, well, shit, it's not my thing, so I guess fuck it. But knowing that because it's not in your control, you can either trust that it's in someone else's, that it's in God's hands, that it's in the universe's hands, or trust that you're not the sole culprit of your circumstance, and trust that you can also push yourself out of it. Because I feel like sometimes we realize that, even problems that make themselves, I mean, if you're, you know, unless you want to proclaim you're not Bob the Builder, I feel like we all have a sense of ingenuity. We can kind of figure things out in our life based off of how we figured other stuff out. So just building off of that momentum, even in your personal life, to know when to give yourself grace and when to push yourself in different ways, that even adds back into your creative fuel. Because then every time you fail, you're more motivated to want to do it again. Every time I made some bullshit today. Okay, I want to do it again. I made some, this is actually, okay, no, this is ass. I want to do it again. And then you just get excited to create. Not to create a hit, not to make the best record ever in the world, but simply just to create. And that progress becomes the purpose. And that purpose becomes your passion. So you're not passionate about them shows you finna sell out 5 years from now when you're bigger than Drake.
Right.
You're passionate about what you're doing right now. And I think that,
I think a lot of that also, because we're young, you know, and I think for a lot of young creatives, they're like, I have to make this now. Like, I need to make this happen now. You know, and
if I don't have a hit by tomorrow, I'm a deadbeat. Like, I'm a sell out.
Because I think there's a lot of amazingly creative people in this world who are like, if I don't do this now, then like, I don't want to grind out for like 5, maybe 10 years, you know, to get to where I want to be, you know, and that like, that'll stop people, it'll discourage people. And because personally, I'm guilty of thinking like that. Like, I'm like, damn, like, if I don't do this in 1 or 2 years, like, it's stressful, you know, and it puts stress on the art, it puts stress on myself, like, it affects all aspects of life because you're looking at this goal that is so grandiose that you're being killed by the weight of it, you know, and it's like, I can't even go hang out with my friends because I want to be in here forcing myself to do something that like I can't even force myself to do because I'm so burned out by all these thoughts, you know.
But see, and this is why I love stuff like this, having these conversations, and even journaling. I'm talking to myself, being able to say that out loud, that could be something. That could be a piece in itself. And that's a time capsule of emotion that happened. So you can always draw back into that as far as a feeling. And I think that's where, when it comes to environment, I feel like a lot of the times the best environment or vehicle for that inspiration that we always look for from the outside world is usually experience. People always look for those moments that create moments. And I think what you're really looking for is living. Yeah, and finding those moments throughout your life and being able to appreciate every moment.
That's the title of this, living.
Yeah, living.
What I'm gonna name this episode?
No, and living with yourself.
In living with yourself.
Yeah,
perfect.
Like, literally. It's funny because there's a show called Living with Yourself on Netflix.
Okay.
And that kind of talks about this similar topic, but I think this is a great way to close it off because I think as a creative, you have to realize that you're always going to be taking care of yourself, taking care of your mental health, taking care of your physical, taking care of who you are, your passion, your purpose. So be mindful of that and show no mercy towards the things that hold you back. Allow yourself to break free, give yourself that grace to do that too. Give yourself that strength. Because I think a lot of us, we push ourselves down to a level that's so beneath us that we don't even realize we're not honoring ourselves. So, yeah.
Beautiful. All right, we can end it right there. Thank you guys so much for listening. Be back real soon. It's your boy Gio.
Zen Touch.
Peace.
Yes, sir. Oh shit. You can have that.